following may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
"55-year-old man charged with sexual assault of 5-year-old boy." A Mayaro man was denied bail yesterday when he appeared in court charged with sexually assaulting a 5-year-old boy. Police said that on April 5th, the suspect was arrested and charged by PC Mahabir of the Eastern Division Child Protection Unit after a woman reported to him that her son was assaulted by a man she knows on April 3rd. The incident was investigated, and following the man's arrest, he was charged. He is expected to reappear in court on April 9. Brothers to face trial for dismembering and burying man in outhouse. 2 brothers were on Tuesday committed to stand trial for the murder of a former Coroni worker whose dismembered remains were found in an outhouse in 2017. Derek Ramsowak was 19 and Denil Ramsowak was 29 when they were charged in 2017 for the murder of Dioraj Bedassi. The matter, which proceeded by way of paper committal, began last February before San Fernando Senior Magistrate Rajendra Rambachan. The state was represented by attorney Selwyn Richardson, who tendered 42 statements from 29 prosecution witnesses. 2 witnesses were cross-examined virtually by the defense. Derek Ramsawak, who was from Barakpur, was represented by attorney Amanda Mohammed, while attorney Chantal Paul represented Denil Ramsawak, who was from Blackstreet Reform Village. It was alleged against the brothers that on a date unknown between March 25th and April 5th, 2017, at Blackstreet Reform Village, they murdered Bedassi. Bedassi, 52, was last seen on the day he celebrated his birthday. His remains were found days later. Relatives had reported him missing, and police investigations led to the latrine being suctioned and parts of his dismembered body being found. His body had also been burnt. Through deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA analysis, the body was identified as Bedassi's. The Ramsaraks were committed to stand trial before the San Fernando High Court. A perfect day ends in death and despair. It was supposed to be the perfect end to a weekend of celebrating the birthdays of 2 young people in love. Shivani Ramkaran, 24, shared the same birthday as her boyfriend, Jonathan Luton. The couple celebrated at Shivani's home on Sunday and then went out to dinner. But Shivani loved the beach and wanted that to be the end of their birthday weekend of celebrations. Luton, 25, planned the day with his family at Double Bridge Gayagayare. It was a location they had visited many times together, he said. But that day, he said, the waves were monstrous and unforgiving. Shivani got into difficulties in the water about 10 feet from the shore and went under. Minutes later, Shivani was seen floating and she was dragged to the shore where Luton and other relatives desperately tried to save her. She was pronounced dead at the Mayaro Health Facility. Shivani lived at Roger Douglas Road, Barakpur, with her brother and parents. Her mother, Camille Ramkaran, said her daughter loved the beach and she blamed no one for the tragedy. Jonathan loved my daughter. They have known each other for 5 years and he treated her very well. I was not there, but I understand he tried to save her, and his father also. He almost drowned too, she said. The mother recalled her daughter's birthday on Sunday. She turned 24. She and her boyfriend both have the same birthday. She told me she wanted dal puri, curried potato, and chicken. I made it early, so she took her time and ate. She cut the cake with her brother, her grandmother, and myself. Then she and Jonathan went out to dinner in the evening. She looked so beautiful. She was a daughter any mother will be proud of, she said. Camille Ramkaran, 40, said she received a call on Sunday evening that her daughter got into difficulties and was at the Mayaro Health Facility. Her daddy and I went there and met Jonathan in the car park. I looked at him and said, "Tell me some good news." But he shook his head. I knew I had lost my child, she said. Ramkaran's father, Ricky Ramkaran, was inconsolable when the Express visited their home yesterday. The mother said Shivani had recently completed her associate degree in business administration and was searching for a job. In an interview with the Express at his Gasparillo home yesterday, Jonathan Luton shared his beloved girlfriend's last moments. "We were holding hands and walking into the water. She was so happy. She loved the beach. If I had told her we can't go, she would have been disappointed," he said. At around 5 p.m., Luton said he and Shivani were bathing in knee-high water. His cousin and a friend were in the water nearby. Luton said the waves were high and the water suddenly became rough. Shivani began panicking, he said. She was screaming for help. She kept saying, "Babe," and I was desperately trying to help her. I started pushing her out, but I was also going down. The waves were hitting me down. Then she was panicking so much she started walking into the waves. I turned around for help, but no one was there. We were pushed deep inside. I looked out and everyone looked like ants. I was screaming for help, he cried. Luton said his father, Joash Luton, ran into the water to help. I heard Shivani coughing because the water was getting inside her. My dad put me on a sandbank and said to stay there. I looked around and Shivani was floating. My dad turned her over and we took her to the shore, he said. No ambulance came, despite numerous calls, and Luton said he placed Shivani on his lap as a relative drove them to the Mayaro Health Facility. Luton said he prayed for her to survive, as they had plans for a long life together. But 30 minutes later, Luton was told that Shivani had died. Luton, a technician at the Vehicle Management Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, VMCOTT, said he had completed his own home and was looking forward to marrying Shivani and starting a life together. Shivani's body was taken to the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex, where an autopsy will be done. Luton's father, Joash Luton, said he was disappointed in the emergency medical service response on Monday. He said, "We called about 15 times but no ambulances came. When we went to the hospital, 2 vehicles were parked there. That was poor. We were trying to do CPR ourselves. We also tried to flag down a passing ambulance 2 times, but it did not stop." Military funeral for drowned fire officer. Firefighter Stephen Marcano, who drowned while trying to save his relative at the Mayaro beach on Sunday, will be given a hero send-off. A military funeral service will be held at the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Springland, Gasparillo. The date and time of the funeral, however, has not yet been finalized. Marcano, 39, of Gasparillo, last attached to the Savonetta fire station, ran into the water even though he could not swim to rescue his niece who was in difficulty. The tragedy occurred around 5:30 p.m. at the beach off Vicks Avenue, Gayagayare. He had taken his wife Patrice, his 2 sons ages 11 and 14 to the beach to celebrate her 31st birthday. His mother, Shirley Bass, 72, said Marcano never liked bathing in the sea because his youngest brother drowned about 20 years ago. In a release yesterday, Chief Fire Officer Marlon Smith said officers are in a state of mourning over the loss of Marcano. He said Mr. Marcano went beyond the call by saving the life of his relative who came into difficulty whilst in the water at Mayaro Beach. He, however, paid the ultimate price after finding himself in difficulties. Expressing condolences to the family and friends, he added, "We pray that the family and friends of the fallen officer can find peace during this time of grief." Marcano was enlisted to the service on July 21, 2009. A message from the lifeguards. Help us prevent drownings. President of the Lifeguard branch of the National Union of Government and Federated Workers, NUGFW, Augustus Sylvester, has called on the Ministry of National Security to equip lifeguards to prevent drownings at beaches. His plea came after the drowning of Shivani Ramkaran, 24, of Barakpur. She died on Monday in the water off Double Bridge in Gaya. This was a second drowning in Gaya over the holiday-long weekend. On Sunday, Stephen Marcano, 39, died while trying to save his relatives, who also got into difficulty in the water. Sylvester said beach responsibility was everybody's business, but believes the necessary equipment and adequate staffing would go a long way in minimizing and preventing future incidents. He said having 115 lifeguards to service 10 beaches was unacceptable and showed the level of importance the ministry placed on this aspect of security. "We are terribly short-staffed. We are lacking manpower. In the last 11 years, we have trained and certified 60 people to come on staff, but they cannot be hired because of a lack of funding. We need a minimum of 200 lifeguards if we are to effectively function as a unit." Sylvester added that Mayaro in particular was challenging because the beach spanned over 18 miles and people do not bathe in designated areas. Having to patrol those areas was extremely difficult, he said, since the lifeguards do not have transport. "All we have is the rescue cans. We have no motorized equipment like jet skis, rescue boats, ambulances, or ATVs to patrol the beaches. A lot of the lifeguard towers are not functioning and in need of desperate repairs. In places like Mayaro, where the lifeguards have to cover a vast amount of beach, it is imperative to have equipment to be effective." Sylvester claimed the Ministry of National Security has ignored the lifeguards' concern and requests for meetings, equipment, and funding. He said with people spending more time in the country because of the COVID-19 pandemic, beaches were more likely to be visited for recreation. "We are totally ignored and abandoned by the minister. He promised to meet with us, but this has not happened. It seems as though it is only the police getting assistance under this ministry, but yet crime increasing." Education Officer Wayne Drysdale said one of the biggest challenges was that people visiting beaches should be mindful of their surroundings and the do's and don'ts of bathing in the sea. Because of the beach houses, many people just come out and bathe in the area, not fully understanding the nature of the water in terms of currents and tides. This is why we have designated bathing areas. He said a lack of funding has prevented an awareness campaign. Water safety should be added to the school curriculum, he suggested, as part of disaster preparedness, given the vulnerability small islands face because of climate change. Unfortunately, there are too many people who are unaware of the dangers of the ocean. What happens when the tide changes? Drysdale advised beachgoers to look for dangerous areas where there are rip currents, brown water, holes in the sand, and shifting sand. He added that people should wait at least an hour before going into the water after a meal and to minimize how much alcohol they drank if they plan to swim in the sea.